Most historical towns and villages in England, like Pateley Bridge, have monuments that are there to help locals and the nation remember those from that location who died fighting for their country in World War I and World War II, and those who fought and returned. The names of each person are listed on each monument, and every year on Armistice Day, the 11th of November, people gather, and at 11 a.m. they go silent and remember those who have fallen. People place wreaths of poppies and wear poppies as a symbol of remembrance. Poppies are used as they are the flowers which grew on the battlefields after World War I ended. I'm here at the Stone of Remembrance. I've just taken a moment to read some of the names of the people from this town, Pateley Bridge, who died in World War I and World War II. I'm reminded of the poem The Fallen that is often read at remembrance services in this country. It's a poem by Robert Lawrence Binyon. These are some of the words from that poem. They shall not grow old, as we are left to grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Pateley Bridge is a small town in the heart of Nidderdale in Yorkshire, an area of outstanding natural beauty. It boasts England's oldest sweet shop. It's been selling sweets since 1827 from one of the oldest buildings in the town that dates back to 1661. John Wesley on his travels visited Pateley Bridge 7 times. He preached in the original chapel in the town. The current Methodist church contains the original pulpit where he preached during his last visit to Pateley Bridge. It's home to the Nidderdale Museum, located in the original workhouse built in 1862. A few years after the workhouse was built, an appraisal was done in 1886. It was originally built to accommodate 80 inmates. In 1886 there were 35 present. 15 were old and infirm, 13 were children, and there were 5 to 6 able-bodied women. It was a sad time in England's history where the poor, vulnerable and neglected ended up in workhouses. Today I'm going to cycle in the heart of Nidderdale. From Pateley Bridge I'm going to head over to Masham via Lofthouse and then back to Pateley Bridge via Kirkby Millsett. It's a really fantastic circular route, some serious ascents and some great downhills. Actually, few places in England offer such amazing rides with minimal cars, even in rush hour. Going to have some help along the way with some Yorkshire mixtures that I picked up from England's oldest sweet shop, which is just up the road. Nobody disputes that war creates so much suffering. In World War I, 20 million people died in the so-called war to end all wars. 21 years later, in World War II, 50 to 56 million people died. They are 2 conflicts of many. The Encyclopedia of Wars mentions 1,763 known, recorded historical conflicts, and today there are approximately 27 wars or conflicts in the world. As I ride today, I'm going to reflect on the commonly held opinion: religion is a cause of so much conflict and war. It was Richard Dawkins, a staunch atheist, who said that one of the key drivers for him writing his book, The God Delusion, was the event of September the 11th, 2001, where Al-Qaeda hijacked and flew 2 planes into the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center in New York. It was an event where terrorists were acting in the name of the religion of Islam. It was an event that led the then President of the USA, George Bush, a Christian, to say the words, God was calling him to war against Iraq. In 2001, Richard Dawkins wrote an article, Time to Stand Up. He said these words, "Those of us who have for years politely concealed our contempt for the dangerous and collective delusion of religion need to stand up and speak out. Things are different now." Dawkins went on to write The God Delusion, released in 2006, sold more than 3 million copies. He attempted to produce a compelling philosophical case that belief in God was not just wrong, but potentially deadly. I'm coming towards Lofthouse. I'm going to attempt a hill called Trapping Hill. It's referred to by cyclists as the Côte de Lofthouse. It's 3.2 kilometers long with an ascent of 262 meters. It's quite a climb. Richard Dawkins has said that people of faith are deluded and insane. Those are pretty harsh, non-inclusive and intolerant words towards what is actually 84% of the world's population. That population includes 2.3 billion Christians, 1.8 billion Muslims, 1.1 billion Hindus and 500 million Buddhists. Is this opinion true? As I go up the hill today, I'm going to ask myself the question, does religion really cause conflict? And am I, as a practicing Christian, deluded and a danger? In reflecting on war and religion, I'm actually going to consider the country of South Africa. It's a country I love dearly and called home for 10 years. During its transition out of apartheid, it was on the brink of civil war. And I'm going to reflect on what happened to that nation as it came out of apartheid. Before getting into South Africa, it's worth having a look at some of the facts about war and religion. The Encyclopedia of Wars states that out of all 1,763 known recorded historical conflicts, only 121, or about 7%, had religion as their primary cause. So religion is a cause of war, but it's not a leading cause of conflict and war. Is there something in humanity and nature that tends towards creating conflict? Sometimes they use a label, a justification for going to war, and sometimes that label is religion. A question we need to ask is, what is the underlying doctrine of different religions, and do these doctrines advocate conflict and war? There are many different religions and they all have their very own different beliefs. Today, I'm going to consider my faith, Christianity. We need to ultimately look at what Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity, taught and who he said he was. I've got to the top of the Côte de Lofthouse. I'm now on my way towards Masham, about three miles out now. It's the views, it's the fresh air, it's the sense of space that keeps you going on that ride. It really is amazing. Jesus Christ lived on this earth at the time of the Roman Empire. It was an empire that advanced and dominated and oppressed largely through war and conflict. And Israel that time was actually under Roman occupation. It was highly oppressive. As I cycle on towards Masham, I'm going to consider how Jesus responded in such an environment. His own people, the Jewish nation, were seriously oppressed and persecuted. These are examples of sayings of Jesus Christ recorded by his followers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone demands that you carry their belongings for 1 mile, offer to carry them for 2 miles. If someone sues you and takes your tunic, your clothing, offer the person your cloak as well. Do not judge others. And just before being arrested and crucified, he said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you." He also claimed to be the Son of God, the way, the truth, and the life, and that nobody could come to the Father, no one could come to God, but through him. I've reached the beautiful town of Masham. It's a market town that goes back to the Middle Ages. In fact, it first got its market charter status back in 1251. It's the home of 2 really famous Yorkshire breweries, Black Sheep Brewery and Theakston Breer Brewery, which is actually just behind me here. It's also a great place to refuel with some fish and chips at Harry's Place, because it's about halfway around this fantastic circuit. To reflect on war and religion, I'm going to consider the nation of South Africa. South Africa has a history of minority rule by white people over people of other race and colour. A so-called apartheid, separate development, as it was called, between whites and non-whites. Ultimately, the white minority oppressed the non-white minority, and that led to emergency after emergency after emergency. And many people said that South Africa was a ticking time bomb, that it was literally just a matter of time before the country would erupt into civil war. In 1990, the leader of the minority government, a man called F.W. de Klerk, made a decision to release the leader of an organisation that the majority of black people followed in South Africa, called the African National Congress, or ANC. His name was Nelson Mandela. He'd been in prison for a number of decades for opposing apartheid. Negotiations began for free and fair elections. People thought that most of the tension would be between black and white people. That happened, but the majority of tension happened between the ANC, followed by mainly the African tribe Xhosa, and another party called the Inkatha Freedom Party, or IFP, followed by Africans from the Zulu tribe. They had a leader whose name was Mangosuthu Buthelezi. It was so sad that in the months leading up to a scheduled first open, free and fair election in South Africa in 1994, there were daily killings happening between supporters of the ANC and Inkatha Freedom Party. Nobody seemed to know what to do. Violence was getting worse and worse, and people began to think that the country was literally on the brink of civil war. Eventually, South Africa's political parties decided to involve international mediators to try to bring peace and to ensure a smooth transition into the elections. The USA put forward someone called Henry Kissinger, and Britain put forward a gentleman called Lord Carrington. Another man was involved, a man called Michael Cassidy. He was a devout Christian and had spent years in South Africa campaigning and petitioning to bring peace and reconciliation amongst South Africa's political leaders. Michael, seeing that negotiations were not going well, decided to involve another impartial African mediator. He got another strong Christian involved, a man called Mr. Washington Okumu. He came from Kenya
to try and help bring peace in the negotiation process. At the same time, the people of South Africa were praying. In fact, for a year, there'd been over 1,000 different Christian groups in South Africa praying 24 hours a day for over a year for peace in South Africa. Negotiations did not go well, and 13 days before election day, they broke down. They literally broke down. The Inkatha Freedom Party under Mangosuthu Buthelezi was refusing to join the election process. Kissinger and Carrington went home, with Kissinger predicting an imminent civil war with at least 1 million deaths in South Africa.
Michael did not give up, and he persuaded Washington to continue too. Washington Akumu on the 14th of April worked through all the night thrashing out a plan with IFP negotiators, while Michael planned a peace prayer rally for the 17th of April, renting a stadium in the city of Durban. The next morning, on the 15th of April, Washington raced to the airport in Joburg to try and catch the leader of the IFP, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, to try and sell him the plan. He was too late. The plane had left. But then a major fault on the plane forced the plane to have to return, and then they got to meet. On the 17th of April 1994, up to 30,000 people of all races attended a peaceful prayer rally in Durban. Unknown to most, at the same time, in the same stadium, while thousands of Christians were there and many more around the country prayed, Buthelezi met with the ANC leaders and ended up signing the agreement. 10 days later, on the 27th of April 1994, the first democratic elections were held in South Africa, and not one person on that day was killed by violence.
I'm back in Paisley Bridge. In this case, it was faith and a move of God that actually stopped a war breaking out, what would have been an horrific civil war in South Africa. Whenever I come to Paisley Bridge, I often am reminded of a dear South African farmer, an evangelist called Angus Buchan. He actually came to Paisley Bridge in recent years to run, on 2 different occasions, to run what is called a Mighty Men's Conference. It's where men get together and really get into the Word of God, and Angus leads men, often in repentance and getting their lives right with God. It was brilliant. The events here in Paisley Bridge actually followed a number of Mighty Men's Conferences that ran in South Africa from 2004 to 2010. The last one in 2010 actually brought together 300,000 men from all over South Africa, in fact from men from all over the world. Different races, they came together to reconcile and to recommit their lives to God. Jesus is totally right. When you truly come to Him, you find yourself loving your enemies and praying for those who persecute you, and you become a lover of peace. Does religion cause war? It can. But does really following Jesus cause war? It can't. It can't. In fact, really following Jesus just creates peace, and it creates a peace that passes all understanding.